we are moving ahead with our next topic, which includes the effective manuscript writing. Here we will try to understand the manuscript structure and what is the need for an effective writing. And also during this presentation, we are going to appreciate the fact that effective writing is more than just a structure of a manuscript. So what are the types of the manuscript we are going to discuss here, and for your knowledge, what are the different types of manuscript that are being accepted by different kind of journals and publications. This include the original research articles where you have done an original primary research to conduct any study, and then you have the research results, and then you want to publish an article through that primary research. So this is the one type of manuscript that we develop, and the second type is the reviews and the meta-analysis viewpoints, where we publish some kind of narrative review, literature reviews, short reviews, and the systematic review types of analysis that we do through meta-analysis. Then comes the editorial, letters to editor, commentary, brief communication. These are all short type of communications where we just want to introduce the search results or talk about any other published articles in the form of an editorials. It's a viewpoint of the author that we communicate through the method of editorials and letter to editors commentaries. Then we have some case reports where we are talking about one or two patients or participants in the study, where you have something differentiating about those patients or participants that you want to talk or highlight or let your audience know about that peculiarity about the patient or the population. You try to publish a case report on that. So why it is necessary to publish and also get it right? Writing for the target audience, choosing your message. So why it is necessary to publish? We will discuss all these points one by one. So why it is necessary? It is necessary to publish what you have already done, to let your audience know that what kind of new research is going ahead in the same subject of interest of them. Secondly, in the time of competition like nowadays and availability of so much of media presence of all around in the scientific community, it is actually publish or perish. You want to show your presence in your scientific community, then you have to publish your search results. So it is very necessary to publish what you have done. The next point is that we also need to publish because we want to know, we want to let the audience and the scientific community know that such kind of research has already been done. So there is no requirement to redo the similar study and utilize the resources and time on the same study. So when you do a literature search, you do the literature search to check whether the similar kind of study has already been done or not. So if the study is not published, then you will not get to know that the similar study has been published. So it is very much necessary that you publish the search results. Then comes the writing for the target audience and choosing your message. So selecting the target audience is very much important so that you can choose the words and the type of research article or the manuscript you are writing. So your messaging should be very clear about what kind of audience you are writing. You are telling a scientific community about your research, then your messages would be different, and if you are talking about your patients or population, then your research message would be written in a different format. So your target audience should be selected first before you actually deep dive into writing a manuscript. Then journal selection is very important. Journal selections will guide you about the number of words you are allowed to write, the type of manuscript they accept, and also the type of referencing you are doing into your manuscript. So you should select your journal before you actually write, because the writing style varies from journal to journal. The writing requirements varies from journal to journal. For example, some journals allow only 3000 words for a research article, whereas some journals allow you to write about 5 to 6000 for a research article. Further, in some cases, there is a restriction of number of tables and figures you can include into your manuscript, while some journals do not put any restriction on the number of tables and figures to be included into the manuscript. So journal selection before writing an article is important and critical to understand what structure you are going to adopt to write a manuscript. Further structuring a manuscript. So structure of the manuscript depend on the type of the article you are writing. You are writing a primary research, then it will follow the IMRAD structure where you will have introduction, methodology, results, analysis and discussion section. If you are writing a review article, then it would have a different type of structure, and if you are writing a systematic review, then it will have a different type of structure compared to a review article. So the structure of manuscript is dependent on the type of the manuscript you are adopting to write. So pointers for an effective development, we'll discuss them in detail. That an effective manuscript, for an effective manuscript, you have to take care of each and every section of the article, including the title till the discussion stage of the manuscript. Then the guidelines. What kind of guidelines you are going to adopt to write a manuscript, that again depends on the type of the manuscript you are going to write. If you have an observation study, then you will write a consort. If you have an RCT, then you will write a consort. Then if you have an observation study, then you will go for a stroke guidelines. If you are going to write an systematic review and meta-analysis, then Prisma guidelines to be followed. So that all depends on the type of the manuscript you are going to adopt. So the guidelines will vary accordingly. Then comes the last point, what makes journal editors happy? So the only thing that can make journal editors happy is the adherence to the journal guidelines. So the type of the articles the journal accepts, the formatting of the journal, the requirements of the journal. So all these needs to be adhered to while writing a manuscript, which can make a journal editor happy. So how to plan? So why did I do the research? So there are a few questions that you need to answer before you actually start writing, or when you actually start planning about writing a manuscript. So we have some smart objectives into this. Why did I do the research? What do I want to say? Who do I want to say it to? What is the best way to say it? Where should I say? So why, what, who? These are some smart questions that you need to answer before you actually start writing. So why did I do the research is the gap analysis that you identified, that why did I completed my research project. So it is important to tell to the audience as well that why did you do this particular kind of research, and then what do I want to say, what is my message, is this message relevant to a scientific community, or is this the message which I want to tell to your audience, otherwise like patients, population or subjects, whichever you want to be. And then who do I want to say it to, that who is your audience, and what is the best way to say it, which format should I choose? Should I choose a systematic review or narrative review or a primary research article or a commentary or an editorial? What kind of method I want to adopt to send my message, and where should I say it? That is the journal selection, where I am going to publish it, and always start with the end in the mind. So you have to first answer all these questions before you actually start writing. And then we have a 3C rule to start writing a manuscript, where we have 3 C's as clarity, conciseness and concepts. So clarity means clean, clear ideas prior to quick kickstart. So before actually start to write, you should have everything clear in your mind. So the questions that we saw on the previous slide, we should have answers to all those questions before we actually kickstart all the writing process. So there should be a clear and clean idea in your mind. Then conciseness. The choice of correct word or a phrase is often it's unnecessary. Like we have to have what we have in my mind is on my paper. So never accelerate anything. So be very concise, be very clear on your words and the phrases what you have in your mind, and then the concept wise you should be very clear, read, write and read again and again for a better performance. If sufficient thought is given to a concept, editing and re-editing can largely be avoided. Avoid trafficking of words. If you have your concept very clear, if you have very concise words in your writing, then you don't need to have any trafficking of words. You don't need to repeat anything. Redundancy should be avoided. And then once read, then write, and then read again, then it will avoid any kind of re-editing again and again. Do you know your audience? So according to your audience, you are going to select your journal, because there are some journals which are being published or which are being spread across some particular parts of the world. If you are writing anything about an Indian population, so you should select the journals which have their subscriptions or their wide receptibility in the Asian population. So you have to select the journals and not the journals which have like specific to only Japanese population or Chinese population or American population. So you should select your target journal according to your population that you are studying or according to the disease. For example, if some disease is very prominent in some particular country and you are working on that particular disease, but the journal is not being subscribed in that particular country, then what is the use of selecting that particular journal? So your journal is very important that a target journal has been selected before writing, that can help you tell you about the word count you are allowed to write, the number of tables or figures that are particularly allowed, then type of articles. Some journals do not allow reviews in general. They only allow reviews, invited reviews. Then if you are writing a review, then you should not select such kind of journal unless and until you get the clarification from the journal editor. Then open access journal, how you want to have your article be presented in the journal. So do you want to have an open access option or not? Then options to add supplementary material. See, some kind of primary research have so much additional data that cannot be presented in the form of a complete manuscript, but it can be presented as a supplementary data. So you have to check with the journal that if they allow supplementary material to be published or not. Then what is the impact factor, what is the acceptance rate, what is the circulation area that particular journal is being circulated to. So all these factors help you understand about your article and the journal so that you can align both of them and publish in one go. So check the sample articles published in those journals so that it can help you understand the format of the journal. Then what each section of the manuscript tell us? So let's discuss all this one by one. First is the title. What does the title of a manuscript will help you understand? The title will tell you why should I read the paper. That is the first glaring thing that an audience will see to it in a manuscript, and from the title he or she should understand that why should I read the complete paper. Then introduction. Why was the study done? In the introduction you try to tell your audience that where was the gap in the literature or the already done searches and why did you take up this kind of research further. Then method section. So in the method section you will tell your audience that how, where, when was this study done. It will tell you everything. Methodology. Method section includes how the study was done, what were the methods that were used, where the study, the location of the study is described into method section, and when, if the timelines are associated with the study, then you have to define the timelines into the method section of the manuscript. In the method section you describe each and everything into the manuscript so that if anybody wants to replicate the study, he or she should understand each and every step of the research that you have done to accomplish the results. Then result section. In the results section it is but obvious with the name that we tell to our audience that what were the findings from that particular research that you have conducted so far. The discussion section. What does this mean? Be remember that in results section you never interpret any of your results, you just describe what you have found. In the discussion section you actually go for the interpretation of those results and you tell your audience what these results mean. And also in the discussion section you compare your results with the previously conducted similar studies and what differentiates your study and what are the reasons for any outliers, what are the limitations of your study, and what did you do to overcome those limitations in the study. So all this comes under the part of the discussion section of your manuscript. Then comes the conclusion section. So what should be done now? In the conclusion section, in the discussion you have already interpreted your results. Now conclusion will tell you what should be done now, whether if you are providing a policy recommendation, then whether these policy recommendations should be implemented or the policy should be modified or policy should be withdrawn. Or if you are talking about drug A versus drug B, then whichever is better, then can you recommend it to a wider population, or you're recommending your audience that the study should be continued further with some, because there were some limitations in your study, or what are the future directions of your study. So all these points come under the conclusion section of your manuscript. And now my question to all of you is, which section do you write first? You should answer this question in your mind so that you can get the clarity on, or at least a satisfaction, okay, I completed this section today. So manuscript writing is a big task, but at least when you start with the section which is already very known to you or familiar to you, then it makes easier. At least a satisfaction is there in your mind that I have completed one section. For me, the first section that I would write would be the method section, because I know what I have done. So what are the different parts of a manuscript? Again, as we have discussed in our previous sections of abstract and the poster presentation, that the manuscript would follow the similar format, would be the IMRAD format, where we have introduction, method section, then results, analysis, abstract and discussion section. So generally what we how we follow these sections or how we write these sections is as the arrows will tell you about, is that method section, then results, discussion section, then we'll go for the introduction, and after completion of all these sections we'll go for an abstract, and then finally the title section. This will help you better write the sections, because see, method section is, you are very clear in your mind that what you have done, you have to just put that in pen and paper. And then results is what you have obtained, you already have the results table, generally an Excel sheet, so you just have to put that up in a manuscript format. Then you have the results, you know how to interpret them, so you go for a discussion section. And then the gap analysis you have identified earlier, so you know that you have to tell your audience that why did you do this study, so you go for an introduction section. Abstract is always the last section that you go for, because in abstract you have to write some crux of each and every section that you have written above. So the abstract is written at the last along with the title of the abstract. So now we'll go to each section one by one with a little description that what we add and how we go about it, what is the sequence of the sections that sequence of the subsections we include in each section. So now at the first go we are discussing about the introduction, and then you can opt your story sequence where you are giving a brief background to the disease or the diagnosis, the epidemiology of the disease. Or about the patient population. Then you write the current standard of care, which is the current treatment that is going on, or the current recommendations or the current guidelines. So we are discussing in a sequence of a manuscript which is written for a clinical trial. So that will give you a background on that. You can modify the sections according to the subject of your choice. And then we at the third go we write the gaps in the understanding with the references which is still there in the previously published research, and then focus of the relevance to clinical practice. So, what is now that is required from the new researches in the similar field. So, why the study was done, and then at the last of the introduction section, we don't create a separate subsection to write a study objectives and the main study questions or or the secondary study questions as applicable. So, we don't make a subsection of study objectives or aims in a manuscript. We just complete our introduction with the last part, which is the study objectives, where we highlight that what would be the main aims of the current study, and only introduce and no discussion. So, in this section we only introduce the previous studies or previously done research. We don't discuss them in detail with the numbers or with their results. With the discussion of the results of the previously conducted studies would be done in the discussion section of the manuscript. But citations are, yes, we do citations in the introduction part of the manuscript. Then comes the materials and methods of the manuscript, where we try to write as much as possible in the concise manner, so that anyone, if wants to do the similar study, can replicate by understanding the method section of your manuscript. So, it is a concise method, but we write the standard procedures. We refer to the standard procedures if they are followed. So, we can just refer that this has been done as per the standard procedures of the methodology. Then we write in detail about the study population, their key inclusion and exclusion criteria, what was the basis of including them into the study. Then we write the study design, whether it is a randomized, parallel, crossover, double blind. So, whatever it is, so you have to write, and also you have to write about the drug doses, treatment duration and group allocation. If it is a randomized study or case control study, cohort study, then you have to write what is the treatment duration and how the treatment was given. Then ethical conduct statement is very much important and is mandatory statement that you have to write, that how did you conduct the study, I mean from where did you get the approvals to conduct that particular study. Ethical review board approvals has been received. If the study is conducted in multiple countries, then obviously from multiple countries you have to get those approvals to conduct that particular study. Then what are the main outcomes? What are the outcomes of your study? Primary, secondary, exploratory parameters, efficacy, safety. So, whatever your outcomes are, you highlight all those, you list all those outcomes that are being assessed in your study. Then the statistical methodology you described in detail about the statistical method that are used in your study. It includes the sample size calculations, method of randomization, statistical power that you have used, or any other statistical analysis that you have used in your study. Then you have to describe that in this section of materials and methods of your manuscript. Define but don't describe the population. So, that is, you don't have to individually describe that this patient had this much, this patient had this much. You just have to define what was the overall study patient characteristics that you have included into your study. Then comes the results section. You have to follow the flow of narration as in the method section. So, what are the subsections used in the method section? The results should follow the same, where you have described about the patient population at the first, and in the results at the first section you will describe the population in detail at baseline and the with all the detailed disposition. Then report the primary outcome measures, decide on the tables, figures and text, and do not duplicate the results. Whatever results you have described in your tables should not be repeated as a text. So, there should not be any redundancy, and indicate clearly where you have presenting the post hoc data, if any. And then extremely important is to define the safety for any human studies. So, say without safety the manuscript is incomplete in case of it is a human study. And don't justify or explain your findings. It's a results section, so report what you have got, and results should only be presented and not discussed here. And do not present the data for which methods are not described. You don't introduce anything new into this section. Thank you.